ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
It's still really challenging for, a 13-year-old to have, essentially the rug pulled out from under her.
Just 3 days in the classroom now, Vista High School students have to go back to virtual learning, and Vista High is just one of 3 Vista Unified schools sending students back home because of a surge in COVID cases. Good evening. I'm Steve Atkinson.
And I'm Kimberly Hunt. Schools in the district have gone back and forth just in the past couple of months. ABC 10 News reporter Anthony Pura spoke with a parent who says the constantly changing environment is disruptive to her children.
I spoke with a mother whose son and daughter both found out their schools were pivoting to virtual learning. She says it's frustrating because her kids want to be learning in the classroom. This is video from October 20th when Vista Unified reopened campuses and Vista High School students headed back to the classroom.
My kids chose to go back into the classroom, and I support their decision to do that.
Liz Parker says her kids learned some upsetting news Wednesday. In a tweet, Vista Unified School District said Vida and Roosevelt Middle Schools, as well as Vista High, are pivoting to virtual learning due to a positive COVID-19 case at each school. Parker's daughter goes to Vida, her son to Vista High. It is the second pivot to virtual for Vista High. The school shifted to virtual learning in early November. Parker says her son just returned to in-person learning Monday, now finding out it's back to virtual.
Neither one of my kids do well with virtual school. Neither one of them. And having in-person learning is extremely important to both of them, not only because they learn better in person, but the social aspect.
Since reopening, the district has said students' desks will not be 6 feet apart and classes can have as many as 38 students. There have been 39 confirmed COVID-19 cases so far, according to the district website. In late October, the school board adopted metrics for closing schools. If one school has 1 or more positive cases, the whole school will shift to virtual learning for 14 days. If 3 secondary schools see 1 case each, they'd have to do the same. It was meant to address a difficulty in finding substitute teachers.
I think they need to revisit it and figure out a different model.
Parker says ideally she wants consistency in learning for her kids who want to learn in person.
Maybe, look at other districts that are succeeding and other states that are succeeding and change it up.
Vista High School as well as Roosevelt and Vida Middle Schools are expected to return to the classroom December 1st. Anthony Pura, ABC 10 News.
Rancho Buena Vista High, Roosevelt Middle, and Vista Magnet School also pivoted to virtual learning yesterday. They're expected to return to the classroom November 30th. After a day of protesting by parents outraged their children are forced to stay home, the Carlsbad School Board approved the district's plan for elementary school students to return to in-person learning. Students are expected back on campus January 5th. Virtual learning will still be an option for students. 922 new cases were reported today of coronavirus in our county, more than 200 more than yesterday. There were also another 12 deaths, bringing that total to 945.
A major pattern that has emerged during the pandemic is when cases rise, hospitalizations follow within weeks. And right now, that's true for much of the country. Our partners at KPBS spoke with our local hospitals about how they're preparing for a possible increase in patients. So far, San Diego's hospitals say they haven't had to tap into extra resources, but they are ready for any change that comes.
We're very worried about the holidays because with the prevalence of disease increasing and people planning to get together in unmasked settings for holiday dinners and that sort of thing, it could become a perfect storm that puts us in a COVID hell.
State and county health officials continue to stress the importance of wearing a face covering and following guidelines to keep COVID cases from rising.
Despite the coronavirus infecting a record number of Americans, AAA estimates 50 million people will travel next week for Thanksgiving. And while not as busy as last year, Lindbergh Field is expected to have more people passing through next week compared to the last many months. And the airport has stepped up COVID safety measures.
Plexiglass screens at ticket counters. We have signage and floor decals that remind people to social distance. We have increased our cleaning of high volume touch points.
The airport also closed seats to keep people spaced out at the gates. Masks are required at all times. The TSA is advising people to arrive early for flights in case there are crowds.
Across the nation, more than 250,000 Americans have died from COVID-19 since February. And tonight, nearly 79,000 people are in hospitals battling the virus as the pandemic surges across our country. Hospitalizations have hit record numbers in 19 states. And the number of people who have died passes a heart-wrenching milestone. Many are frustrated with how lightly some are taking the virus.
I can't tell you the amount of people, friends of my dad, who have said, oh, I didn't take it seriously before your dad. Like, I didn't know anyone else who got it. Sorry it took my dad to die for you to take it seriously.
There is renewed hope, though, as Pfizer says trial results show its coronavirus vaccine is 95% effective, higher than first reported. The company says it will be ready to ask the FDA for emergency authorization by Friday.
Wherever they're from, they're children. We need to protect these children.
A federal judge just ruled children who cross the border without an adult cannot be sent back. This reverses a Trump administration policy which started in March. In that time, 8,000 children have been sent back. Our ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo shows us how those who fight for immigrants' rights are reacting.
Critics say the move puts children in harm by sending them back to their home country. The administration says it's out of fear of spreading COVID-19.
In March, as coronavirus was quickly spreading throughout the country, the Trump administration issued a public health order to expel all migrants apprehended at the border, including children.
It's just a terrible situation that is placing greater people at risk, especially children.
Wednesday, a federal judge blocked that order when it comes to minors traveling alone, saying they cannot be expelled.
So not sending the children back to their home country is the correct thing to do, because you're sending them back to sure death.
Instead, the administration will now have to allow them to have their day in court to seek asylum, as was done before COVID-19.
When people say, these children or these migrants should follow the law, many of them have been following the law. That's why they're asking for asylum.
The Trump administration argues that it must expel the children to keep border agents and others in immigration custody from getting the virus. Critics argue that's not the case.
The administration has been using COVID as a pretext to remove as many people as possible and not abide by its international obligations to ensure that people who are seeking asylum are provided the opportunity to do so.
The Justice Department hasn't said if it will appeal the ruling. We did reach out to CBP for comment and are waiting to hear back. Laura Acevedo, ABC 10 News.
New at 11 o'clock, Bobby Brown Jr., the son of singer Bobby Brown, has died. The 28-year-old was found in his home in Los Angeles. Authorities say no foul play is suspected. It's unclear what led to his death. And this comes 5 years after the death of his half-sister, Bobby Christina Brown. The daughter of the late singer Whitney Houston died months after her mother was found dead in a hotel bathtub.
President-elect Joe Biden met with frontline workers today. Biden says he is optimistic, but admits his transition should be further along. ABC's Alex Perche has the latest on the stalled process.
Today, a warning from the president-elect to the outgoing president that a refusal to start the transition process could hamper efforts fighting the coronavirus pandemic and distributing a vaccine.
There's a whole lot of things that we just don't have available to us, which unless it's made available soon, we're going to be behind by weeks or months.
Biden today holding a virtual roundtable, game planning how to deliver critical support to frontline workers.
Do you know that I have not been tested yet? And I have been on the front lines in the ICU since February.
You're kidding me.
No.
Biden's now operating without many resources often given a president-elect. Some Republicans are calling for President Trump to at least grant him access to briefings. But most are silent as Trump's legal team continues to launch Hail Mary challenges in several battleground states, even as they're running out of time and options. A hand count audit is set to wrap by midnight in Georgia, ordered by state officials due to the close race. So far, uncounted votes have been found in 4 counties, netting President Trump more than 1,000 votes. But President-elect Biden still has a roughly 13,000 vote margin lead there. The Trump campaigns also requested a recount in 2 heavily Democratic Wisconsin counties, Milwaukee and Dane. But Biden leads in the state by roughly 20,000 votes. And in Michigan, where Biden is ahead of Trump by more than 150,000 votes, 2 Republican officials in Wayne County briefly refused to certify the election there, a move that would have tossed out all votes in the city of Detroit, prompting an angry outcry during a public Zoom forum.
You talked about not certifying Detroit, even though you acknowledged that Livonia, a city, by the way, I know you know is 95% white, had bigger variances than Detroit, which is 80% black. We understand. Just know when you try to sleep tonight, the law isn't on your side, history won't be on your side, your conscience will not be on your side, and Lord knows, when you go to meet your maker, your soul is going to be very, very warm.
Later, those canvass members did an about-face and unanimously certified the election results. Alex Perche, ABC News, Washington.